In step 3, we'll recategorize rasters with reclassify and slice. First, if you haven't already, you're going to reset the sample label field back to value. Then we'll use reclassify tool to reclassify the original raster into 3 quantile classes. And last, you'll use the slice tool to group the original raster into 3 natural breaks classes. Back in ArcGIS Pro, if you haven't yet, we got to make sure that you reset your labels. So I'm going to select the samples feature layer, and on the labeling ribbon, reset the field to value. And we're going to return to the geoprocessing toolbox. Go ahead and collapse the zonal toolset and expand the reclass toolset. And we're going to use reclassify to reclassify or change the values in a raster. So go ahead and open up reclassify. Set the input raster to our original raster, and I want to see that in our map view as well. And then the reclass field is going to be set to value. And then you can see already in the reclassification, all the values are reclassed as 1 through 9. But we can use classify to create class breaks. So we'll go ahead and click the classify button. And for our method, let's use quantile. And for the number of breaks, 3. And so that creates breaks at 11, 13, and 16. Go ahead and click OK. That updates the reclassification table where the first break from 8 to 11 is reclassed as 1, second break from 11 to 13 is reclassed as 2, and the third break from 13 to 16 is reclassed as 3. I can also update the values in the reclass table. I'm going to go ahead and name the output raster as raster underscore reclass and click run. And there you can see it created my raster underscore reclass where I have a reclassed values of 1 between 8 and 11, 2 between 11 and 13, and 3 between 13 and 16. Now, what I really like about the reclassify tool is how flexible it is. I can manually update both the reclass values in the geoprocessing pane as well as the break values. Next up, we're going to use the slice tool, which is a little faster but doesn't have as much flexibility for reclassing your data. So we're going to use slice to slice the range of values into zones or classes. Go ahead and open up the tool, and in the input raster, we're going to set it again to our original raster. The output raster we'll name as raster underscore slice. The slice method, let's try natural breaks this time. The number of output zones we'll set to 3. And go ahead and accept the default parameter values and click run. And there you can see it's reclassed our original raster into raster slice with 3 natural break zones. All right, go ahead and save your ArcGIS Pro project. In step 4, we'll clip and resample our original raster. We'll use the clip geoprocessing tool to create a 6 by 6 meter clip raster. And then we'll use the resample tool to create a resampled raster with a 2 meter cell size. Back in ArcGIS Pro, in the geoprocessing pane, I'm going to click back and collapse the reclass toolset, collapse the spatial analyst tools toolbox, and then scroll up till I find the data management tools toolbox, expand that. Within that, I'm going to expand the raster toolset and then also expand the raster processing toolset. And then there we'll find the clip raster tool, which we'll use to cut out a portion of our raster data set. So go ahead and click the clip raster tool. We'll set the input raster to our original raster layer. And then for our clip, we're going to use the rectangle. And instead of 9 and 9, we're going to use a 6 by 6 rectangle. Set the output raster data to raster underscore clip, except the remaining default values. And go ahead and turn off raster slice and raster reclass so we can see the original raster and it clipped 6x6, and then click run. And it kind of looks like nothing happened, but we can see it did create the raster underscore clip raster dataset and the raster clip layer, although I need to rename it. The tool doesn't rename the layer for some reason. And then if I scroll down and uncheck the raster layer, you can see it clipped it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, that looks great. Now let's use the resample tool. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the raster clip, turn on the original raster again, and then over in the geoprocessing pane, click back. And in the raster processing toolset, I'm going to resample to change the sample resolution of a raster data set. So go ahead and click resample and set the input raster again to raster, the output raster data set to raster underscore resample. The output cell size, we can use an existing raster and its cell size to set it, or we can specify. We're going to go ahead and specify the absolute X and Y, which is going to be 2 by 2. And then for resampling technique, we can use nearest, bilinear, cubic, or majority. We're going to use nearest. Go ahead and click run. In the catalog pane, you can see it created the raster underscore resample raster dataset. It created a raster layer as well, but for some reason this tool, you have to rename it. So I'm going to go ahead and rename it as raster underscore resample. And then if I scroll down and turn off my original raster, there I can see it's resampled my original raster by cell sizes of 2. Go ahead and save your ArcGIS Pro project. In step 5, we'll simplify our raster. First, we'll use the majority filter geoprocessing tool to generalize our raster. Then we'll use the region group geoprocessing tool to identify unique zones in our original raster. Back in ArcGIS Pro, first I want to clean up the map view so that only my raster layer and samples feature layer are visible. And then I'm going to collapse all of my tool sets and toolboxes and scroll down to the Spatial Analyst Tools toolbox, expand that, and then locate Generalization Tool Set, expand that. These are all different tools you can use to generalize your rasters. We're going to start with Majority Filter, which replaces cells in a raster based on the majority of the contiguous neighboring cells. Go ahead and click on it. Set the input raster as raster. The output raster is going to be called raster underscore majority. And we're going to go ahead and leave the rest of the parameter values set to the default values and click run. And there you can see in the map view that it's generalized our raster. If I turn it off, you can see it's a little bit more detailed and then it's generalized it. Like look up in the upper left-hand corner. All right, in geoprocessing, I'm going to go back. And in the generalization toolset, we're going to use region group to group cells of the same value that are contiguous into regions. And so we'll set the input raster to raster, the output raster to raster underscore group. And then accept all the remaining default parameter values and click run. And so there you can see in the map view, if you turn the raster group off, like all the 9s are the same color in the original raster. But if I turn it back on, you can see the 9s that are contiguous have been grouped into individual groups, 1 and 14 in this case. All right, go ahead and save your ArcGIS Pro project.